Hey, how are you? My name's Tony Kiss, and I'm really excited to be joined here with a really good friend and an expert in the teaching profession, Carol. Carol's on board as a primary school teacher, and I thought, Carol, let's have a chat. We're about to go into lockdown for COVID, and a whole lot of parents out there are going to be homeschooling. And that means there's a lot of stresses around this. So what I want to do is have a chat to you about what are some of the stresses that parents are going to go through, what are some of the stresses that kids are going to go through, and at the end of it, let's just wrap it up with some really good helpful tips and hints on how they can get through all this kind of stuff. We've been through this, our second lockdown for homeschooling. And I thought, let's just have a chat. What did parents go through last time, and what can they expect next week going into homeschooling for their kids?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we need to take away from last lockdown was the amount of actual work that went into online learning was immense, with, I would say, not a lot of reward coming back from the children. Not all of them were able to access online learning. So you weren't just doing online learning, you were doing at school learning for those kids that are at risk or have essential workers, parents that they had to come to school. And then we also had people who didn't have access to either a laptop, because some families will only have one laptop, and if you're working from home, you need to have that laptop for the person who's working from home, not the student who's learning. So there was a to and fro where you had to make booklets up to send home with kids, and then they came to school, and then they were at home, and then do you teach the same booklet that you do online? That it was a nightmare for the teachers to try and juggle which one to go with, because teaching face to face is so different to teaching online or teaching through a book. The kids, they handled it quite well. They liked the routine of coming to school and having their format, and relearning all of that when they came back was more difficult than them doing it at home. I think the parents struggled a lot more than what the students did.
Yeah, let's talk about the parents, because you know what, and we've had this chat before, parents are not teachers, but now they've been thrown up into this situation where they're going, you've got to be the teacher now for your own children. Like, how stressful would that be for a parent?
Because I'm a primary school teacher, we're looking at younger kids as well. We're not looking at high school kids or universities or any of those. I'm just looking at the younger style. And parents' last learning experience was either at high school, year 12 or year 10, or university, where your concentration was already built, it was there. And they're sort of expecting their 6-year-old to sit down and have the concentration span for an hour or two, or sometimes 3, and they just can't do it. You're looking at 10, 20-minute intervals for a child to sit and do a little bit of work, and then let them go. Don't sit and expect them to be able to work like you do, because they can't. They don't know how to do that.
That's a really good point, because I think we forget as well, Carol, as well, not only just once you graduate from university, or let's say if you left school in year 12 or year 10, where you could block out a couple of hours to study because you've built up that resilience. But now at work, we're asked to work 4-hour blocks non-stop. So are parents putting that expectation back onto, let's say, an 8 or 9-year-old as well?
Absolutely. But we've had parents that were complaining because their child wouldn't sit in front of the computer for 6 hours. It's like, no, of course they're not going to. So I know in our program that we put together, we actually had specified breaks in our timetable. So we would put a timetable down for a parent and say, this is what they're going to do in the morning, give them a break. This is what they're going to do next, have morning tea. This is what they're going to do. And we'd actually put exercises in there for them to get up and go do things. And it could be go out and walk around your clothesline 2 times, or go and make your bed, or things that they could do without supervision. Because I mean, being a parent is so different to being a teacher. You can't be expected to do both.
And that's where my heart goes out to a lot of parents, and the stress is going like, geez, we've got to parent these kids, but now we've got to teach them like teachers. So what are your strategies? To what age group? Let's say if we're dealing with primary school kids, and they'll go up to the age, 11 or 12? Yeah. Okay, if we're working up to that group, how long would you say their focus is good for? Would it be 20 minutes, 30 minutes? What would you recommend before they get up and do something else?
Well, you're looking at 5-year-olds as well in kindergarten. You're looking max 8 minutes where they can actually sit and focus in kindergarten. Some kids will extend longer. Some kids won't even be able to do that. When you're going up to year 12, or not year 12, year 6 with the 12-year-olds, they could probably sit for a good half hour and concentrate. A good half hour and actually do some work for half an hour straight. Then get up and do something. It's like the difference between being a novice driver and a truck driver. They can drive for 6 hours straight and not blink, but a novice driver, you're 10 minutes and you're exhausted. It's the same type of thing.
I love that analogy, the novice driver and the good driver. So it's anywhere, like, parents gauge it anywhere between 8 minutes to 30 minutes, and you just got to gauge where your kid's at. What about this one here, Kaz? This has got to be an issue for parents, I'm guessing, where the child is going to lack motivation. It'll be like, you laugh. All right, you got to help parents out here, Carol. They're begging you right now. I think everybody's ears are just pricked up. What would you do around that? What's a strategy that you can help parents so they can motivate their kids to actually sit down and do at least 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever it is worth of work?
Okay, lower your expectation for one. Motivation is something that's going to come from that child, and it's going to be something that they're interested in. Now, children don't generally know what they're interested in. They're interested in what you're interested in. So if you show an interest in what they're doing, they're going to do it.
Oh, really?
Kids are like that.
Sorry, I don't know if everybody else is going to have a light bulb moment right now, Carol, but I just have one. Really?
Yeah, really. So if you're interested in something, they're going to become interested in it as well, especially if you're going to show what they're doing, that you're interested in what they're doing. They're going to want to show you what to do. Yeah. I wouldn't be forcing a child to do anything. I would probably be asking your child, how do you do this? And then they show you how to do it, and they learn more when they're instructing than they do when they're being instructed. So get them to show you what they do, and then generally show an interest in what they're doing, and they'll do it. Yes.
Wow, that's clever. That's quite clever. I like it.
Well, it works for me anyway.
And there's another one out there as well where parents are going to actually be quite stressful, is because they're not teachers. At the end of the day, they're not teachers. And they're most probably going to be worried it's going to be a reflection if their child goes back to school and meets a teacher like you, and they haven't actually picked up everything that they should have. So there's this pressure or this expectation on them that they have to produce a result with their child. What would you say about that? When
I first started teaching, my expectation was every child was going to learn exactly what I wanted them to learn. No, they're not. And they're going to learn it extremely differently to how you show it. As your teacher and your child's coming back to school, if they've done absolutely nothing, okay. If they've done absolutely everything, fantastic. They're back and we can start the process all over again. Don't stress about it. They're not going to miss out on their learning. They're not going to fail in a week. It's getting them motivated to come back to school and ready to learn is probably the biggest key for them to continue their learning, as opposed to making them sit down and study at home and stressing them out. Home's their relaxed place. Home's where they can come and not learn, where they can just relax. You don't want to make that into a school, a classroom. You want them to go, you're going to do a little bit here. When you go back to school, you're going to do more of it. That's about it.
I love it because it's the environment. It's your home environment. It's where it's love, it's nurturing, it's playful, it's everything like that. Yeah. And it's not school. What would you say, let's say you've got kids out there at the moment where they're not going to be able to hang out with their friends. They're going to be in lockdown at the moment. How much stress does that actually put on a child as well?
A bit, actually. Just having contact with another person, whether that be their friend or someone they sit next to in the classroom, doesn't necessarily have to be their friend. Yep. Just knowing that that person's there, it's different. I know when we were doing Zoom, classrooms really, teaching online, and you'd have the whole class. Well, you never get the whole class. You would probably get half the class there online at the same time. You would actually suggest them to go into chat rooms. They could sit and have a conversation. And they enjoyed that because it was the one-on-one contact. This lockdown's very different to the first lockdown. The first lockdown was really, really intense. This one, I'm finding people are more relaxed about it. They know what's going to happen. They know they're going to survive it.
Yeah.
They know they're going to come out of it. And you're looking at 4 days of school this week, or next week anyway, that the kids are going to not go to school for, unless you're an essential worker. And from what I can see, if you have a job and you are going to work, you are an essential worker, so your child will be going to school.
It's a really good point that you make, because it is 4 days they're going to go into lockdown, and things have eased up. Our attitudes around the COVID whole thing has eased up. However, I think we've got to keep in mind too, we're just in New South Wales, we're coming off 2 weeks of school holidays. Yeah. So mum and dad have been entertaining for 2 weeks. They're at their wits' ends, most probably, some of them, right? And they're going, thank God my kids are going back. Now they've actually amped and they go, you're going into lockdown and you've got to homeschool as well.
Yay, an extra week holiday.
Yeah. So
look at it that way. Don't look at it as in, oh, this is a burden. I get an extra week with my child with no stress. Look at it that way. Don't look at it as, no, another week at home with my own child. No, enjoy it. You're not going to get it every year. You're not going to get it every term. So enjoy the extra week that you get at home with them.
Yeah, exactly. And you're the expert here, Carol. You've got 3 kids. You've got 3 beautiful boys, and they've all grown up. And I'm pretty sure if you could have your time again, would you have spent more time, if possible, with them?
Like completely on holidays. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just doing the little projects, just sitting down and having fun with them, playing a game, having a board game night, having a board game afternoon. Just do the things that you used to do as a kid when you went camping.
Yeah.
They'll get more out of that than making them sit there and do their math.
Yep. How long would you actually, if you were to set up your child, let's say, we'll go middle of the run, let's go year 4, a year 3 or 4 student, and you're to homeschool, how much actual time throughout a day would you actually allocate to teaching? Would it be like 2 hours, or still break that up in your 30-minute blocks or your 10-minute blocks, but how much time would it be? Half a day? What would it be?
As a parent at home?
As a parent at home, yeah. Because that's the other pressure. They're used to dropping their kids off at 8:30 or whatever it is, and then picking them up at 3, right, or 3:30. So they're assuming it's got to be that 6 to 7 hour period.
Yeah. I'd probably aim for 2 sessions depending on their concentration in the morning, and then 2 sessions in the afternoon, and leave it at that.
Okay, so if it's an 8-minute session, 2 minutes of 8 minutes if they're kindergarten.
Yep. Yeah.
And
give them a break in the middle and then come back down again and do that. Don't try and get them to sit down for 6 or 8 sessions in a row. They're not going to be able to do it, and you're going to pull your hair out, and they're going to hate every minute of it, and then they're going to hate learning. So this is something they're going to have to do for most of their life. They're going to have to learn how to learn. So don't stress them out now that they're going to think, oh, every time I sit down to read a book or do something, it's stressful. Give them a little bit, walk away, come back again. It's like you're basically teaching them to become independent learners in a hurry, and that's a really slow process. So they're not independent learners. They need to be guided. They don't need to be taught. They need to be guided. The teacher will teach them, but you just guide them on how to learn and how to become more independent in their learning. That's all you need.
Wow,
you don't stress about it.
That's a great way of looking at it. I actually love that, because when do we actually become independent learners? Is there a stage? Is there a phase? Or
some people never become independent learners. I think it's when you become motivated and you find something that you really want to do, something that you're very interested in, and then you can develop that further. Everyone will get their own time to become an independent learner. Getting that know-how how to do it, that's not going to come until they're ready. And that can come in year 5, that can come in year 4, that can come in year 12. It depends on when they're ready to take responsibility for their own learning.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Carol, this has been a really super cool chat. And I just want to ask one last thing, and we'll do a quick recap because people would want that. Would you recommend, or would you encourage for classmates to do little Zoom chats or little FaceTime chats and include that as a bit of study as well? Just to get that connection between the kids if they can't leave home for whatever reason. Yeah,
just having communication with other students in their classroom, and even I mean, a lot of the teachers that I work with personally, we have our Google Classrooms and we have all the work on there. And if they can access the Google Classroom from their home and then have a chat either in the classroom or on Zoom with another student, definitely something that they can bounce off and even just communicate with somebody. Technology is a big call for students to learn, and you're looking at kindergarten kids that don't know how to work technology. So how can we expect them to do online learning? But getting them associated with that and talking to another student in that same class, that'd be great.
Yeah,
that's a huge learning curve for them.
That's a really good point too as well. Just get them onto the technology bit, and these kids will know more than us.
Sometimes they do.
I know, it's good. Okay, let's do a recap on this one here. So Carol, and just fill in the gaps wherever you get it wrong. The first thing is that your child's not going to fail. You're doing your best as a parent, and when they come back to school, if nothing's been done, worst case scenario, for whatever reason, for whatever situation you're in, they'll come back to school and they'll get back up to speed eventually.
Correct. Yes.
The next minute is assess your child on what their concentration span is, and most probably up until primary school, year 6, being 12 years old, around about 30 minutes, but just gauge that and then dial that back for a kindergarten.
Completely, yeah.
Have 2 sessions in the morning, that might go 20 minutes or whatever you've assessed your child to be at, have a gap in between, then playtime or whatever for another session, and then in the afternoon do another 2 sessions, and that's your day done. So
Correct.
your day as a teacher could be, if you're doing a kindergarten child, is 32 minutes for the whole day.
For the whole day. Don't stress any more than that. At the end of the day, read to them. Pick a book up and show them how to read. Read to them.
Yep.
Sit down and have a reading time with your child.
Yep.
That will benefit anything that you do. Reading to your child is so important.
Yep. Oh, and the other one that I liked was the one where you get the child, your child to teach you what I'd love that one.
Yeah, get the child to teach you. They learn a lot more when they're instructing. You learn a lot more when you're instructing than when you're being instructed, and they're exactly the same.
Carol, you've been absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your expert opinion and your tips on being a school teacher and helping parents out and kids as well. Thanks so much, Carol.
No problems.